Welcome back, Quellpack, to another Click Team Firefly tutorial. We'll be going over how to make a launcher for your games. It's just one way to support multiple resolutions. I'm going to be looking off to my left a lot. I have MS Paint pulled up with my notes for this because I do not remember all this off the top of my head. Just a little bit about this file. You can download this blank file if you want to follow along down in the description below. I have everything already set up. Just the only thing that I need to point out is that one, the ini file is set to data.ini, which would be in your data folder. It just holds everything. Right now it holds the resolution. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And you need to uncheck create ini file in application data folder because we are going to use the data folder locally, or we're going to use the data ini locally. There's a few layers. Just go ahead and delete or hide those. You have the background. This is the loading layer, and then the resolution selection layer. And that's already all set up. So to get started, we will first create a few groups. We have a group called no config, and then another group called config. And that will just tell the difference between having no resolution set and having a resolution set. Go ahead and close those, and on the start of frame, we're going to do a few things. One, we are going to set the file. So set current file. Since we are, let's pull this back up. Since we are using it locally, we have a data folder. We'll have to route to that data folder. In order to do that properly, we're going to use app path and then the $sign. They'll get the application path, so it's not a set path. If the file's moving around, it's not going to harm your code in any way. We're going to get the data folder and then data.ini. And now the software knows where to get the information from. We are also going to set the scale to 0 because we don't have anything loaded yet, so 0. And we're going to hide the layer. We're going to go ahead and grab the name, visibility, hide, and it is config. If you look at this layer, it says I've renamed it config for configuration. And at the start of the frame, that should set this white bar at the bottom to nothing and hide the resolutions. Okay, I just had to move some files around so this would actually work. I separated everything so I can send this out. One thing I should point out, you see that 480, 720, and 1080 are kind of like cut out. That's because they are hidden files. You don't want the user to see those, only my game, and my game will access everything that needs to be accessed. So after that, we are going to start a loop, or get a loop started. So on call, let's call it add. We are going to add, let's see, where is it? Value. We're going to set the value, sorry, not set, we're going to add one to the value. We're going to add 1 to the value, and that is going to control this bar, the speed of this bar. And we're going to always set the scale, the X scale, equal to the value of A. Let me find it real quick. Divided by 200.0. We're going to divide it by 200. That way it looks like it's loading. And at certain points, we're going to set a few triggers. The 0.0 is to turn from an integer to a float. That way it actually, it actually loads, not just jumps. Because if we didn't have the 0.0, it'll jump from not being there to being there. We want maximum quality. Like to have things looking nice. And let's check the value. if it's lower than 200, and every 1 millisecond, every 1 millisecond, we are going to run the loop add, if I can spell right, 1 time. And if we play this, that should load. Nope, I did something wrong. Okay, I figured out what was wrong. We set the scale to 0. What we should have done is set the X scale to 0. And 1 for maximum quality. There we go. So, let's go ahead and move these 2 groups down. And we'll start with no configuration. If we come back to here, you'll see that there's 7 paragraphs, and that will tell us where we're at in the process. For no configuration, it is broken up into 3 parts. So we're going to check the value, if it's equal to 40, if it's equal to 180, and 200. The reason there's a large jump is after it checks and sees that there's no configuration, it will make the progression bar jump higher. That way we're not waiting the full turn. The first trigger is 40. We are going to check 2 general values. The first value, we are going to get some information from that INI file. So the way I have the file set up, I think I just deleted everything. So the way the file is set up, we'll have launcher. That will be the data for our launcher. And then we'll have the resolution. Sorry, I did that wrong. We'll have information for our launcher, and then our resolution, and it will be our value. And what you can do from there is have information from your game, like character name, health, coins, whatever you want. You can have some objectives, just messages, whatever you want to have. Anything that you need to save, you can have it all saved under one file. We are going to get the value of the group and the item. So first things first is our group, which will be launcher. Our item is going to be res, and if it's equal to 0, we are going to change the paragraph. Did I name these? Info, set paragraph, and we're going to say that no configuration was found. And we are going to change the value of A to 140. That way it gives the reader some time to, or the user to actually read that, understand what's going on. When it is at 180, we're going to change the paragraph again. So set paragraph. And we want to tell the user that launch a configuration window. There we go. That way they know what is going on. That is just, let's copy this and bring it down here to make sure that we're still under the same no configuration. And I'll explain that once we get to the actual configuration. That way the user knows where we're at. Go ahead and copy this down here one last time. And we want to hide and show a layer. So we are going to layers by name visibility. We're wanting to show, what is it called? Launcher. Sorry, wanting to show config. And then hide launcher. Again, these are my notes. I'm just looking back and forth with this. just to make sure that I stay on topic and not mess anything up. So whenever we run that, say no configuration found, and we're going to jump over to the configuration screen. Next, let's go ahead and set up the code for if a configuration is found. It's just a save resolution. Actually, we have to rename this. And add one more group. We'll call it setting grass. Need to activate that. There we go. So we can actually copy this down here. It'll be a similar thing. We're going to change this to 40. And we're going to change this to different then. Or different. If it is different from 0, that means that we actually have a resolution saved that it can load from. We're going to change the string, set paragraph to save configuration found. Change this to 80. And we're going to change the paragraph again. So we can edit this and we can say it's loading the configuration data. We want to set the global value. Let's see. We are going to set global value A to the content of the INI file. That way we can have it saved in game. And it will be launcher, resolution. So, wrong button. Our first global value is going to hold the data that we need in order to load the exe, and it's just going to basically be the name of the exe. Go ahead and copy this, change this to 120, edit this, say that the configuration is loaded. We can delete this because we don't need to save it again. What we are going to do, let me check. That's actually it. We just want to update the user, change this to 160. Again, update the user. We're going to say we are starting the game, and we want to copy this one more time at 190. We are going to get rid of this and launch the actual game itself. So a lot of this is just updating the user. In order to launch the game, we're going to execute an external program with an evaluated path. App path $ plus the string of global value A, actually. So right click here, retrieve global value A, and it is saying we mix the strings with numbers because I did not put that in a string. This you can just leave blank, just press enter. We don't need to wait for an in or hide application. And last thing is setting this to 200 and ending the application. So at 190, it's going to launch your new game, which is one of these 3 files, and then a tenth of a second later it's going to close the application, and that gives enough time to close this application. That gives enough time for this application to read that command, close it, and start the actual game itself. The only thing to have these. Okay, just a little bit about your game. As far as Firefly is concerned, there is not much that you have to change in between your 3 game files. Just have to resize the engine. As you can see, this is for a 720, and then we have 1080, which is just bigger. When it comes to the 2D stuff, that is when you have to resize. That's the only extra work that you'll have to do. Just wanted to show you that real quick. Now that we have both no configuration found and a configuration found, let's go ahead and set up the configuration layer. Come over here and scroll down a little bit so I can see. So first things first, we have, let's go back so I can show you this. I have a text string, and I called it a shield. It's just to darken it out a little bit over the Firefly image. You don't have to set it up this way. This is just how I'm doing it for this example. We want to check to see if the mouse is over the shield. Copy and paste that, and we can negate it. So if the mouse is over the shield, we want to take it and change the alpha blending coefficient to 0. And in here it's already changed. Move this out of the way. It's just a fully black active. And the blending coefficient is set to 100 to give it that transparent look. So if the mouse is over the shield, we want to set it to 0. If it's not over it, we want to set it back to 100. That way, not destroy it. Edit, set it back to 100. That way it does darken out that image. We also want to get the string or the information. Copy that, and let's get this group. I have these text strings in a group. Sorry, they have a qualifier of text just to make things easier. Rather than getting these individual, using their individual name, have a qualifier. We want to make that text visible as well. And then when the mouse isn't over either one of those, copy and paste that down here. Negate, and we want to make this disappear. So whenever this loads, oh, that's the wrong value. There we go. Whenever this loads, whenever you put your mouse over the resolution that you want to select, it brightens up the image and shows you what the resolution will be. And now just triggers for selecting an actual resolution. So when the user clicks on user clicks on an object, we are going to use the actual resolution. So we're going to start with 480. We want to set the value of resolution in the INI file. So we're going to get the group launcher, and the item is res for resolution. We're going to set it to 480. And then we can just copy and paste this 2 times, change this from 480 to 720, and update the value to 720. Lastly, change this from 480 to 1080 and update the value to, say, 1080. And then we're going to restart the application. So when we run the application now, take us to this configuration screen. We can choose our resolution. I'll put 720. And something isn't working. Okay, so when I deleted the code, I forgot to save this as the blank application. It wasn't saved in the right spot. That's why it was not working. Now, if we were to run this, it'll take us to configuration. We're going to select 720. it opens up 720. If we were to change this, we can go ahead and edit the data. So we'll change this to 480 and save it while we run this. It'll open up 480. One little thing you can do is, let's see, which paragraph is it? This one, instead of changing it to a paragraph, we can change the text and say setting resolution to plus global value A. And if we were to run this, it will say it's setting it to 480, setting resolution to 480. Lastly, just go ahead and edit this and change it to 1080, just to make sure that everything works properly. Save. Setting resolution to 1080, and it'll open up the bigger one. Yep. And this is just a a small file that I put together just to prove, or just to ensure that everything is working properly. Go ahead and delete that. We can save this. Let's go ahead and save it as blank launcher. And build as blank launcher. There we go. Delete this. Go ahead and delete the data, INI. We'll set it to 720 for now. And when you come back here, that data INI is created. So you don't need to set that up in any way. And it is pulling the 720 exe from one of these three, the 720 exe application that we have hidden. You can put in a README file saying, if you move the launcher or anything, it'll break the game, so don't move it, something like that. Just a warning towards the end user, but at its basic principle, that is how you would make a launcher in order to support multiple resolutions. I will see you guys next week.